Welcome everyone, I'm Mr. Eves and today we're going to be going over our quiz review. Now this is a day late because I was gone yesterday, but we're going to have a chance to make up this quiz, so I wanted to go over some of the rules for the review. And so I've come up with a few concepts that I want to go over, and the very first thing I want to talk about is listing factors. And so let's go ahead and look at these numbers. So we have the number 16, and so factors, remember, are the numbers that we multiply to get this number. So we're going to list all the numbers that we can multiply to get 16. And we'll go ahead and start off with the first one is 1. Then we have 2 goes into 16, 4 goes into 16, 8, and 16 itself. So these are some of the factors of 16. Not just some of them, but they're all the factors of 16. Now we're going to talk about like the rainbow method. So 1 matches up with 16 and 2 matches up with 8, and we know that 4 matches up with itself. And so we're going to find out that it's really easy to find the factors once you've gotten to the middle point. And so let's go ahead and go with number 24. Number 24, we have 1, because we know that 1 goes into every single number. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Now, one thing you're going to notice is 4 times 6 is 24, so this is called our magic middle, or the middle of the rainbow. So now we can start pairing up. So we go 3 times what gives us 24? 8. And then 2 times 12, and 1 times 24. So we're able to match them up. Now, like I said before, 4 and 6 is our magic middle. That's when we know that when we start pairing up with the next ones. So I'm going to do number 20 and help illustrate it a little bit better. So I'm going to list 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. These are all our factors. Then I'm going to match them up. I'm going to pair them up. So 1 times 20 is 20. 2 times 10 is 20, and 4 times 5 is 20. Once again, 4 and 5 is our magic middle, so realistically we only have to go to the point where we find our magic middle and then we can start pairing them up. So really simple and straightforward. Go ahead and try number 4 and number 5 on your own. I'll give you a few minutes. Well, that should be pretty much enough time for you to kind of figure it out. And I'm going to show you how I like to do it. I like to go 1, and then I say 1 times 36. So I list them out and I kind of spread them out. So I know that there's more factors in 36. So I go 2 and 18, because 2 times 18 is 36. 3 and 12. 4 and 9, and 6 and 6. And so 6 is my magic middle. So those are all the factors of 36. Now 14 is 1, 2, 7, and 14. Pretty simple. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to use the divisibility rules, and we're also going to tell whether the number is prime or composite. Remember, prime only has 2 factors, composite has more than 2 factors. And so divisibility rule for 2, if the number's even. For 3 is we add the sum of the digits, such as 4 and 6, we add those two together, it gives us 10, and we say, is it divisible by 3? And it's not. 5 if it ends in a 5 or 0, 6 if it's divisible by 2 and 3, 9, the sum of the digits, and it's divisible by 9. And 10 ends in a 0. So those are quick divisibility rules that help you remember. So we know it's even, and so 2 goes into it, but 4 plus 6 is 10, and 3 does not go into 10. And so if 3 doesn't go into it, we automatically know that 6 and 9 don't go into it, because 3 and 6 are factors of 9. And it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, so neither 5 or 10 goes into it. So we know that it's still composite, because it has a factor of 2. 2 goes into it. Now 30, it's even. So once we figure out that another number besides 1 and itself, we know that that number is going to be composite. But we're going to see what else. 3 plus 0 is 3. 3 goes into itself. And since it's divisible by 2 and 3, we know it's going to be divisible by 6. It's also divisible by 5 because it ends in a 0, and 10. Now, the one thing I want you to notice is it's not divisible by 9. So just because it's divisible by 3 does not always mean it's going to be divisible by 9. So we know that that one's composite. Let's go over for 605. So it's not even. Add them together, that gives us 11. 3 doesn't go into 11. Well, it ends in a 5, so 5 goes into it. And since 2 and 3 don't go into it, we know 6 doesn't. And if 3 doesn't go into it, we know 9 doesn't. And it doesn't end in a 0, so the only factor that we show in these divisibility rules is 5. So that's still composite. 48, simple. It's even. So 2. Add them together. 4 plus 8 is 12. 3 goes into 12. Doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, but 2 and 3 go into it, so 6 is. And 9 doesn't go into 12, and it doesn't end in a 0, so we know that this is composite. Last one, 61. It's not even. Add them together is 7. 3 does not go into 7. And I'm going to go ahead and do 9 right now. 9 doesn't go into 7. Doesn't end in a 5 or 0. So 5 and 10 are out. And 2 and 3 don't go into it. So we know that this number is prime. There's no factors. Now, next section I want to talk about is prime factorization. We know that prime means it only has 2 factors, and factorization are the numbers that we multiply to get another number. So I'm going to use the ladder method, and I'm going to put 17 into it. I'm going to say, what's the smallest prime number that goes into that? I'm thinking of all my prime numbers, and there is not a smallest prime number that goes into that, and so 17 is prime, and so that's the prime factorization of 17. It's just 17. Now, 94 I'm going to go ahead and put in a box, and I say smallest prime number that goes into it beside is 2. 2 goes into 94 47 times, because half of 90 is 45 and half of 4 is 2. 2 and 45 is 47. Smallest number that goes into 47 that is prime, that is not 1, is 47. And so I'm left with 1. Once I reach 1, then I know that I've got my prime factorization outside here. So I have 2 times 47 is the prime factorization of the number 94. Go ahead and try 27. So the very first thing I'm going to do is going to put 27 into it. Smallest prime number that goes into 27 is 3. 3 goes into 27 9 times. 3 goes into 9 3 times. And 3 goes into itself once. Once I reach 1, I have 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 to the third power, which is the same thing as 3 times 3 times 3. Now, I'm going to use the ladder method on the greatest common factor of 9 and 27. But before I do that, I'm going to ask myself, does 9 go into 27? And if I say yes, then I know that the greatest common factor is that number 9, because 9 goes into itself, and it also goes into 27. So that's the greatest common number that goes in between those two numbers. 15, I'm going to go ahead and make my chart. I have 15, 45, and 60. Smallest number, the prime number that goes into both of them, well, 3 goes into 15. Does 3 go into 45? 4 plus 5 is 9, yep. And then 6 plus 0, yeah. So use my divisibility rules to see that 3 goes into them. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 3 goes into 45 15 times. And 3 goes into 60 20 times. Smallest prime number that goes into those is 5. 5 goes into itself once. 5 goes into 15 3 times. And 5 goes into 24 times. So once we have a common factor of 1, we're done. So we go ahead and kind of stop there. And so our greatest common factor is 3 times 5, which is 15. So greatest common factor of 15, 45, and 60 is number 15. All right, let's go ahead and do number 16 together. 28, 34, and 42. Greatest or the smallest prime number that goes into those, well, they're all even, so I know that 2 goes into them. 2 goes into 28 14 times, 2 goes into 34 17 times, and 2 goes into 42 21 times. Now, I notice that 14 and 21 share a common factor of 7, but 17 doesn't work, and none of the other numbers go into it. So the common factor of these 3 numbers is 1. Therefore, the greatest common factor of those 3 numbers is 2. So that's greatest common factor. We use the ladder method for greatest common factor, and prime factorization we use a single ladder. So on greatest common factor you can use double ladder or triple ladder. Now, last section is fractions using simplest form. Now this quiz we're going to be using a lot of our divisibility rules. So we go ahead and divide, see what goes into it. So they both end in a 5, and so I know that they're divisible by 5. 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 5 goes into 85 17 times. Now the thing you're going to notice is 7 is prime, and so if 7 doesn't go into 17, it's in simplest form. And so it is. Now 18, I'm going to go with my divisibility rule of 2, cut it in half, so that's 12 and 60. Notice that it's still even, and so I can cut that in half, 6 and 30, 3 and 15, and then 1/5. Now the one thing I want you to notice here is if you looked from these two, we could have just made a quick jump by noticing that 12 goes into 60. 12 goes into 65 times, and then 12 goes into itself 1 time. Right? So it goes into itself 1 time. And so we could have spared ourselves the work of going down by the smallest number. So usually when we're trying to find the simplest form, we're going to see what the biggest number is that goes into both the top and the bottom, so we can divide by that and be in simplest form. Now on number 19 it says find the value for x. X is just representing some number. Last year it was represented by a box, so it was like 7 over some number in there. This year we're just calling it x. It's our variable. It represents some number. So I'm going to go 7 times what gives me 42, because I do multiplication better than I do division. So I go 7 times 6. And I say 6 times what gives me 54. And I know that x is going to have to equal 9. Same thing for the last one. 7 times 9 is 63. So I times both top and bottom to keep it equivalent. And 9 times 2 is 18, so x equals 18. Now here's just a quick little video on how to do better on the quiz. I hope you have a good review and good luck on the quiz. Thanks.